The silence of deep space broke with a sound that shouldn't exist. Rex Carter had been analyzing mining reports from the outer colonies when every communication device in the deep space array suddenly screamed with static. The veteran admiral dropped his data tablet and rushed to the main control room where technicians frantically worked at their stations. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission on impossible frequencies," reported Lieutenant Davis, sweat beading on his forehead. "The signal is using quantum channels that our own scientists said were theoretical only." Rex studied the chaotic patterns dancing across the main screen. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like it. The transmission pulsed with mathematical precision, yet carried an underlying desperation that made his skin crawl. "Where is it coming from?" "That's the problem, sir. It's not coming from any direction. The signal appears to be originating from multiple points in space simultaneously, as if the entire galaxy is broadcasting." Dr. Nina Volkov burst through the control room doors, her usually neat hair disheveled from running. The xenolinguistics expert had dedicated her life to the theoretical study of alien communication, though humanity had never encountered actual aliens. "Admiral, I need access to the primary receivers immediately. This signal contains structured patterns that suggest intelligent origin." Rex nodded grimly. "Do whatever you need to do, Doctor. I want to know what we're dealing with." For 6 hours, Nina worked alongside her team of linguists and mathematicians. They fed the signal through every translation program humanity had ever developed, cross-referenced it against theoretical alien language models, and applied pattern recognition, algorithms that had taken decades to perfect. Slowly, agonizingly, meaning began to emerge from the cosmic static. The first breakthrough came when Nina realized the signal wasn't just audio. It contained visual components, mathematical proofs, and even three-dimensional star charts embedded within the transmission. "It's like they're teaching us their language while they speak," she muttered, her eyes red from staring at screens. "They know we don't understand them, so they're providing a translation key." Admiral Carter paced behind her workstation, his weathered face growing more concerned with each passing hour. The signal showed no signs of stopping, and reports were coming in from colonies across human space. Everyone was receiving the same transmission, from the mining stations in the asteroid belt to the furthest research outposts near the galactic rim. "Got it!" Nina suddenly exclaimed, causing everyone in the room to freeze. "The mathematical sequences are universal constants. They're using physics itself as a common language. And the message—" She paused, her face going pale. "Admiral, you need to see this." The main screen shifted to display a three-dimensional hologram constructed from the signal data. It showed a vast stellar map with thousands of star systems marked in different colors. Green systems pulsed steadily, yellow ones flickered uncertainly, and red systems remained dark and lifeless. As they watched, more green systems turned yellow, then red, creating an expanding wave of darkness that swept across the galactic arm. "This is the galactic hegemony," Nina translated as alien text appeared beside the hologram. "We are a confederation of 10,000 civilizations spanning 12 spiral arms. We have existed for 50 million years, mastering technologies you cannot yet imagine. We have conquered death, harnessed the power of stars, and built worlds larger than your solar system." Rex felt his hands clench into fists. The sheer scale of what he was hearing made humanity seem like insects by comparison. Nina continued translating as the hologram zoomed in on specific systems. "But now we face extinction. An enemy has returned from the void between realities. We call them the Devourers. They consume matter, energy, and the very laws of physics that hold the universe together. Every weapon we deploy, every strategy we devise, they adapt and overcome." The hologram showed massive alien fleets engaging geometric shapes that defied description. The battles were brief and decisive, with the alien vessels being systematically dismantled or simply ceasing to exist. System after system fell dark. Our greatest minds calculate total defeat within one solar cycle. The Devourers grow stronger with each conquest, learning our technologies and turning them against us. We have observed your species, humans of the Terran systems. You are young, primitive by our standards, But you possess something we have lost in our millions of years of existence. Nina paused in her translation, looking confused. They say we have chaos, unpredictability. They claim we make decisions that defy logical analysis, that our strategies are random enough to confuse computational prediction systems. Rex raised an eyebrow. They want our help because we're chaotic? More than that, Nina continued as new data streamed across her screens. They believe our irrational nature might be immune to the Devourer's adaptation systems. They're providing coordinates to a rendezvous point and requesting immediate contact with our military leaders. The control room fell silent except for the hum of equipment and the continuing alien transmission. Rex studied the star charts, noting that the meeting point was only 3 days away at maximum hyperspace speed. It lay in a system that showed yellow on their map, meaning it was currently under siege. Admiral, Lieutenant Davis spoke quietly. What are your orders? Do we respond? Rex considered the implications. Humanity had always assumed they were alone in the universe, focusing on colonization and resource extraction. Their military was designed to handle pirates and colonial disputes, not cosmic-level threats. But if these aliens were telling the truth, the Devourers would eventually reach human space whether they helped or not. Prep the Horizon's Edge for immediate departure, he ordered. Contact Captain Torres and tell her she's about to make first contact with alien civilizations, and get me a direct line to the colonial authority. They need to know that humanity just graduated from local politics to galactic warfare. As the crew rushed to execute his orders, Rex stared at the holographic display. The wave of red darkness continued its inexorable advance across the galaxy. For the first time in his military career, he faced an enemy that had already defeated opponents far more advanced than anything humanity could field. But maybe, just maybe, their primitive chaos would be enough to tip the scales in a war that had already consumed civilizations older than Earth itself. The aliens were about to learn that humans had always been good at one thing above all others, surviving against impossible odds through sheer stubborn refusal to give up. The galaxy's last hope rested on humanity's greatest weakness, becoming their ultimate strength. 3 days later, the Horizon's Edge dropped out of hyperspace into a graveyard. Beth Torres had commanded exploration vessels for 15 years, but nothing in her experience prepared her for the devastation that filled the Kethmoran system. Massive structures the size of moons drifted broken and lifeless, their alien architecture twisted into impossible shapes. Debris fields stretched for millions of kilometers, containing technology so advanced that human sensors couldn't even identify what materials had been used in their construction. Jesus Christ, whispered engineer Roy Mitchell from his station. How many ships died here? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, Beth replied, her voice tight with shock. And look at the size of some of those wrecks. That one over there is larger than our entire colonial fleet combined. The surviving alien vessels huddled near the system's dying red giant star, their hulls scarred and weapons dark. Even damaged, they dwarfed human ships like whales compared to minnows. The largest vessel appeared to be constructed from living crystal that pulsed with internal light, while others seemed to be made of liquid metal that flowed and shifted in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Incoming transmission, reported Communications Officer Parks. It's using our own languages, multiple human dialects simultaneously. They learned everything about us from our response signal. The main screen filled with an alien presence that defied easy description. The being stood 12 feet tall, its body composed of interlocking crystalline segments that refracted light in impossible ways. Where a human would have a face, geometric patterns shifted and changed, somehow conveying emotion despite their mathematical nature. I am Kralveth of the Synthesis Collective. The alien spoke, its voice a harmony of tones that resonated directly in their minds. Welcome, humans of Terra. I had hoped to meet your species under better circumstances, but the Devourers leave us little time for proper diplomatic protocols. Beth stepped forward, acutely aware that she was making first contact on behalf of all humanity. I'm Captain Torres of the Terran Colonial Authority. We received your distress call and came as quickly as we could. But I have to ask, why us? Your technology is obviously centuries ahead of anything we've built. The crystalline being's patterns shifted to what might have been sadness. Come aboard our vessel, Captain Torres. There are things you must see to understand the scope of our desperation. The docking procedure alone demonstrated the vast gulf between human and alien technology. Their ship didn't use mechanical clamps or pressure seals. Instead, a field of energy simply enveloped the horizon's edge and gently drew it into a docking bay that reconfigured itself to accommodate the human vessel's unique design. Walking through the alien corridors, Beth's team struggled to comprehend their surroundings. The walls weren't solid but seemed to be made of flowing light that parted before them and reformed behind them. Gravity pointed in different directions in different rooms, allowing for three-dimensional architecture that maximized space usage. The air itself carried information, downloading translation protocols directly into their neural implants. Kralveth led them to a vast chamber where representatives from dozens of species waited. Beth saw beings of pure energy contained in crystalline shells, creatures that looked like living metal trees and entities so alien that her human brain simply couldn't process their appearance. Despite their differences, they all shared one thing, an aura of desperate hope mixed with ancient terror. Behold the greatest minds of our galaxy, Kralveth gestured with limbs that bent in too many places. The thought nexus has existed for 10 million years, their consciousness spanning entire star systems. The Builder Collective has constructed Dyson spheres around 1,000 suns. The reality shapers can manipulate the fundamental forces of physics itself. Yet all our knowledge, all our power, means nothing against the Devourers. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing the galaxy in 3 dimensions. Areas of red darkness spread like cancer across the spiral arms, consuming everything in their path. They appeared 6 months ago at the galaxy's edge, explained a being that resembled a metallic spider with too many legs. We sent our finest fleets to investigate. They were destroyed within hours. How is that possible? Asked Dr. Amy Fisher, the human physicist who had joined the mission. Even with superior technology, surely numbers alone. Numbers are meaningless, interrupted another alien, this one appearing as a shifting cloud of geometric shapes. The Devourers don't just destroy our ships, they consume them, learning our technologies instantly and turning our own weapons against us. Every battle teaches them new ways to kill us more efficiently. Roy Mitchell studied the tactical displays with growing horror. It's like they're a perfect adaptive algorithm. Every strategy you try, they counter and improve upon. Exactly, Kralveth confirmed. They are order incarnate, mathematical perfection that can calculate and respond to any logical sequence of actions. We have thrown everything at them. Planet killers that can shatter worlds. Reality bombs that can erase matter from existence, time weapons that attack targets in the past. Nothing works, they adapt faster than we can develop new approaches. Beth felt a chill run down her spine. So why do you think humans can make a difference? We're barely capable of interstellar travel compared to what I'm seeing here. The chamber fell silent. The assembled aliens exchanged communications and frequencies beyond human perception. Finally, Kralveth spoke. Because you are chaos, Captain Torres, your species makes decisions based on emotion, intuition, random impulses that defy mathematical analysis. We have studied your military history. Your greatest victories came when you abandoned logic and did something completely irrational. You're saying we're unpredictable enough to confuse them? We pray that you are. The Devourers calculate every possible strategic outcome and prepare counters for each one. But how do you counter a strategy that makes no sense? How do you predict chaos itself? Dr. Fisher leaned forward, her scientific mind racing. Have you tested this theory? Has anyone tried truly random tactics against them? We tried, admitted the spider-like being. We programmed random number generators to control our fleets. The Devourers adapted to randomness within hours. But true chaos, the kind that comes from biological irrationality, from emotional decision-making, from pure human stubbornness, that we cannot generate ourselves. A new alien spoke, its voice like wind through crystal chimes. We offer you everything we have learned. All our technology, our knowledge, our remaining fleets. In return, we ask only that you show us how to be unpredictable. Beth looked around at her crew, seeing the same mixture of terror and determination in their faces. They were being asked to teach beings millions of years old how to be irrational. The fate of the galaxy might depend on humanity's ability to remain chaotic in the face of perfect order. There's something else, Kralveth added quietly. The Devourers are not the true threat. Our deep space monitors have detected movement in the void beyond reality. Something vast is using the Devourers as scouts, preparing an invasion from dimensions we cannot even perceive. The Devourers are merely opening the door. The weight of cosmic responsibility settled on Beth's shoulders like a crushing burden. Humanity had spent centuries fighting each other over resources and territory. Now they were expected to save civilizations that had mastered the fundamental forces of the universe. But as she looked at the assembled aliens, all their vast knowledge and power rendered useless by an enemy that countered logic with logic, she began to understand. Sometimes the solution to an impossible problem was to stop trying to solve it rationally and instead do something completely insane. Humans had always been good at insane. 2 weeks after first contact, General Wade Knox found himself strapped into an acceleration couch aboard an alien vessel that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. The Eternal Wisdom was the flagship of the hegemony's remaining forces, a construct of crystallized spacetime that could fold reality around itself. Despite its impossible technology, Knox could feel the fear radiating from its alien crew as they approached Pyros Prime, the last fortress world still holding out against the Devourers. Visual contact in 30 seconds, announced the ship's AI, its voice a chorus of mathematical harmonies that somehow translated into English. Warning: prolonged observation of devourer entities may cause permanent psychological damage to biological minds. Knox glanced at the other humans in the observation deck. Dr. Amy Fisher clutched her instruments with white knuckles, while pilot Ryan Cross lounged in his chair with the casual confidence of someone too young to properly fear death. The contrast amused Knox, but his humor died as the main view screen activated. Pyros Prime hung in space like a dying ember, its once proud cities reduced to geometric scars across its surface. The planet's defensive grid, built by civilizations that had forgotten more about warfare than humans had ever learned, flickered and sparked as it failed system by system. Massive orbital fortresses drifted powerless, their hulls split open, like dissected insects. But it was the things attacking the planet that made Knox's breath catch in his throat. The Devourers weren't ships or creatures in any sense he understood. They were geometric impossibilities, fractals of dark energy that seemed to fold in on themselves while simultaneously expanding in all directions. Some appeared as massive pyramids that existed in too many dimensions, their edges cutting through space itself. Others resembled crystalline spiders with legs that stretched across solar system distances, each limb tipped with reality-warping devices that turned matter into pure information. "How do you fight something like that?" whispered Ryan, his cocky demeanor finally cracking. "You don't," replied the alien tactical officer, a being that resembled liquid mercury in roughly humanoid shape. "You die efficiently and hope they don't. Learn too much from your death." Knox watched the battle unfold with growing horror and fascination. The planet's defenders employed weapons that should have been capable of cracking planets, energy beams that burned at stellar temperatures, gravity bombs that collapsed space itself, quantum torpedoes that erased their targets from existence across multiple timelines. Each attack struck home with devastating effect, only to watch. The Devourers adapt and regenerate within seconds. "They're learning," Dr. Fisher observed, her scientific instruments recording everything. Each time a weapon hits them, they analyze its structure and develop countermeasures. But look at this data. She highlighted a section of her readings. When that gravity bomb hit the pyramid construct, there was a millisecond delay before it adapted. They're not instantaneous, they need processing time. The revelation sparked something in Knox's tactical mind. So they can be surprised, just not for long. The question is, can we surprise them with something they literally cannot calculate? Their discussion was interrupted as proximity alarms began screaming. One of the devourers, a spherical entity covered in mathematical equations that hurt to read, had detected their observation post. It began moving toward them with impossible speed, reality bending around it like heated glass. "Evasive maneuvers," ordered the alien commander, but Nox suddenly stood up. "Wait," he barked. "Ryan, get to your fighter. I want you to buzz that thing." "Sir?" Ryan looked confused. "That's suicide. Our weapons can't even scratch them." "I don't want you to shoot it. I want you to confuse it. Do something completely irrational. Something that makes no tactical sense whatsoever. Fisher, record, everything." Ryan's face split into a grin as he finally understood. "You want me to be crazy? I can do crazy." Minutes later, Ryan's small fighter craft streaked toward the approaching devourer at maximum speed. Instead of following any recognizable attack pattern, he began performing maneuvers that defied military training and common sense. He spiraled in impossible helixes, flew backward while shooting forward, and performed barrel rolls that somehow moved him sideways through dimensions the eternal wisdom couldn't even detect. The effect on the devourer was immediate and startling. The entity's perfect geometric form began to flicker, its mathematical equations scrambling as it tried to calculate Ryan's trajectory. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a devourer hesitated. "It's trying to predict his next move," Fisher exclaimed, her instruments going wild. But Ryan's not following any logical pattern. He's making decisions based on pure instinct and adrenaline. The devourer's computational matrix is locked in recursive loops trying to solve for variables that don't exist. Ryan pressed his advantage, diving directly through the center of the entity at an angle that should have been physically impossible. His fighter emerged on the other side unharmed, while the devourer actually staggered, its form losing cohesion for several seconds. But the victory was brief. Even as they watched, the devourer began adapting to chaos itself. New algorithms spawned within its structure, meta-calculations designed to predict unpredictability. Within minutes, it had developed countermeasures for irrational behavior. "Fall back," Nox ordered grimly. "We've learned what we came to learn." As Ryan's fighter returned to the eternal wisdom, the fortress world of Pyros Prime finally fell. The planet's surface simply ceased to exist, consumed down to its quantum structure, and converted into raw energy that the devourers absorbed. 12 billion souls vanished in an instant, their entire civilization reduced to mathematical data in the enemy's collective consciousness. The journey back to human space was conducted in somber silence. Nox studied the combat recordings over and over, trying to find hope in what they had witnessed. Yes, the devourers could be momentarily confused by human unpredictability, but they adapted to that confusion faster than any single human could maintain the chaos needed to keep them off balance. "We need more than one crazy pilot," he finally concluded during a strategy meeting with the alien commanders. "We need systematic chaos, coordinated randomness across entire fleets. The kind of beautiful insanity that only humans can generate." Kralveth's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been hope. "Then you believe victory is possible?" Nox thought about Ryan's impossible flight, about the split second of confusion in an entity that had consumed civilizations. "I think we can make them work for it. The devourers expect perfect logical resistance. Instead, we'll give them the one thing in the universe they can't calculate: human beings fighting for something they care about more than their own lives." Dr. Fisher looked up from her analysis of the devourer data. "General, there's something else. I've been studying their quantum signatures, and I think I know why they appeared now. The fabric of space-time in this region has been weakening for millennia. The devourers aren't just invading our dimension, they're preparing it for something else, something that needs reality itself to be destabilized before it can manifest." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. The devourers weren't trying to conquer the galaxy. They were trying to tear a hole in the universe large enough for their true masters to crawl through. And at the rate they were consuming systems, they would succeed within months. Nox looked out at the stars, each one representing billions of lives depending on humanity's chaotic nature to save them. The irony wasn't lost on him. For centuries, humans had been criticized for their irrational behavior, their emotional decision-making, their refusal to accept logical defeat. Now those same flaws might be the only thing standing between existence and cosmic annihilation. Signal all human colonies, he ordered. Tell them to prepare for war. Not the kind of war we've ever fought before, but the kind we're uniquely qualified to win. We're going to teach the galaxy how to be beautifully, magnificently insane. New Geneva had never seen anything like it. The orbital shipyards that once built mining vessels and cargo haulers now swarmed with activity as human engineers worked alongside beings that existed as pure thought, crystalline entities that communicated through harmonic resonance and AI collectives that had been contemplating existence for millions of years. The sight would have been impossible to imagine just months ago, but desperation had a way of making the impossible seem routine. Admiral Rex Carter stood in the newly constructed Joint Command Center, a facility that existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions that human physics couldn't properly describe. Around him, holographic displays showed the real-time status of the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 3,000 human vessels, from nimble fighters to massive carriers, worked in formation with 50,000 alien ships representing every major civilization in the hegemony. The diversity of the fleet defied description. Crystalline ships that sang through space on waves of harmonized energy worked alongside vessels made of living metal that could reshape themselves mid-battle. Reality-bending craft that folded space around themselves for protection flew in formation, with human ships held together by welding and determination. It was chaos made manifest, and somehow it was starting to work. Operation Paradox is proceeding on schedule, reported Fleet Commander Thicksall, whose species had evolved from sentient gas clouds and existed as patterns of electromagnetic energy. Human tactical doctrine is being integrated with our technological capabilities. The results are unprecedented. Carter nodded, studying the tactical displays. The plan they had developed over the past month was beautiful in its complexity. Human unpredictability would be amplified by alien technology, creating layered strategies that existed in quantum superposition. At any given moment, their fleets would simultaneously be executing dozens of different battle plans, switching between them based on random human decisions that no computer could predict. Captain Joe Barnes approached the command console, his weathered face showing the strain of coordinating with alien minds that processed information at speeds beyond human comprehension. Admiral, the Vanguard units are reporting ready status. We've managed to sync human pilots with hegemony, reality shapers. When our people make irrational maneuvers, the aliens can bend space-time to make those maneuvers actually work. And our weapon systems? That's where it gets interesting. Barnes grinned, despite the circumstances. Dr. Fisher has been working with their quantum engineers to create weapons that function on multiple dimensional frequencies simultaneously. Our missiles now carry payloads that exist in several realities at once. Even if the Devourers adapt to one version, the others might still get through. Carter felt a moment of genuine hope. For weeks, they had been combining human chaos with alien precision, creating something entirely new. Human intuition guided weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics. Alien computational power supported tactics that made no logical sense but somehow worked perfectly. But that hope was shattered when Commander Alex Reed burst into the command center, his face pale with terror. "Sir, we have a problem. A big one." The main display shifted to show Reed's reconnaissance data from the galactic core. What they saw made everyone in the command center fall silent. The supermassive black hole at the galaxy's center was no longer black. It pulsed with dark energy. Its event horizon expanded far beyond its natural limits. Around it, millions of devourer entities swarmed like insects around a hive, their geometric forms creating patterns of such complexity that looking at them caused headaches in human observers. "They've turned the galactic core into a generator," Reed reported, his voice shaking. "It's producing new devourers at an exponential rate. But that's not the worst part." The image zoomed in to show something emerging from the modified black hole. It was vast beyond comprehension, a presence so alien that their instruments could barely register its existence. "What is that thing?" whispered Dr. Fisher, her scientific instruments overloading from trying to analyze the entity. Kralveth's crystalline form dimmed with what could only be described as cosmic dread. That is what the Devourers serve. We have no name for it in any language. It exists between dimensions in the spaces where reality becomes uncertain. The Devourers have been preparing our universe as a bridgehead for its arrival. The implications hit Carter like a physical blow. How long do we have? Based on the rate of reality degradation around the galactic core, perhaps 6 months before it can fully manifest in our dimension, replied the Thought Nexus, its collective consciousness providing calculations that spanned multiple probability matrices. When it arrives, the distinction between existence and non-existence will become meaningless. Carter looked around at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization, beings that had existed for millions of years, species that had mastered technologies beyond human imagination, all united by the certainty of imminent annihilation. Then we hit them now, with everything we have. If we're going to lose, we make them remember the fight. The preparations that followed were frantic and desperate. Every ship in the joint fleet was retrofitted with hybrid technologies that combined human engineering with alien science. Fighters equipped with reality warping. Drives flew alongside capital ships armed with weapons that fired backwards through time. The humans contributed something the aliens had never possessed: the ability to make decisions based on pure emotion and instinct. The alien response to human tactical thinking was fascinating to observe. Beings accustomed to calculating every variable found themselves learning to trust hunches and gut feelings. Species that had spent eons perfecting logical responses discovered the power of acting on impulse. It was like teaching mathematics to dance or showing poetry how to sing. But as the fleet prepared to depart for the final battle, disturbing reports began arriving from deep space monitoring stations. The entity emerging from the galactic core was affecting reality in ways they hadn't anticipated. Stars were beginning to burn in impossible colors. Gravity was flowing backward in some systems. Time itself was moving in spirals rather than straight lines. It's not just emerging, Dr. Fisher realized with growing horror. It's rewriting the fundamental laws of physics to accommodate its presence. By the time it fully arrives, our universe might not be capable of supporting life as we know it. Carter stared at the tactical displays showing their combined fleet, 53,000 ships carrying the hopes and fears of countless civilizations, preparing to face an enemy that could reshape reality itself. The odds were beyond impossible, but humans had always specialized in refusing to accept defeat, even when logic demanded surrender. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "We launch in 12 hours. I want every captain, every pilot, every crew member to understand what we're fighting for. Not just our own survival, but the right of the universe to continue existing according to laws that allow life, consciousness, and hope to flourish." As the fleet began its final preparations, Carter allowed himself one last look at the strategic projections. Every rational analysis showed their mission ending in complete failure. The Devourers outnumbered them millions to one, possessed adaptive technology that countered every logical strategy, and served something so fundamentally alien that its very presence was poisoning reality. But rationality had never been humanity's greatest strength. Their gift was the ability to look at impossible odds and respond not with careful calculation, but with magnificent, stubborn, beautiful defiance. They were about to teach the universe that sometimes the most irrational response to overwhelming darkness was to light a candle and charge straight at it, screaming with joy and terror in equal measure. The Magellan sector looked like the aftermath of a cosmic war between mathematics and madness. Stars burned in colors that didn't exist, their light arriving before it had been emitted. Gravity pointed in 17 different directions simultaneously, while time moved in stuttering loops that made cause and effect meaningless. The fabric of reality itself had become so damaged by devourer activity that the universe was forgetting how to be rational. Admiral Rex Carter stood on the bridge of the Defiance, a ship that represented the ultimate fusion of human chaos and alien precision. The vessel existed in 7 dimensions at once. its hull constructed from crystallized space-time reinforced with good old-fashioned human stubbornness. The bridge crew was a mixture of humans and aliens working in impossible harmony, their thoughts linked by quantum communications that allowed them to coordinate tactics that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. "Contact in 60 seconds, reported Lieutenant Parks, his voice steady despite the readings on his instruments that suggested they were approaching something that officially couldn't exist. "The Devourer main force is positioned around the dimensional breach. I'm reading. Sir, I can't get an accurate count. The numbers keep changing." Through the view screen, the enemy fleet stretched beyond the horizon of space itself, millions of geometric impossibilities arranged in patterns that hurt to perceive, their forms shifting between dimensions as they maintained the massive tear in reality, through which something unthinkably vast was trying to emerge. The breach pulsed with energies that made matter forget how to stay stable, and every few seconds another piece of the cosmic entity beyond squeezed through the gap. Carter could see fragments of the thing trying to manifest, surfaces that existed in too many dimensions, appendages that stretched across light years while somehow being microscopic, and what might have been sensory organs that observed reality from angles that shouldn't be possible. Each glimpse made his human brain rebel against the input, but he forced himself to keep looking. Understanding the enemy, even imperfectly, was crucial to defeating it. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," he broadcast across the joint fleet. "Today we fight not just for our civilizations but for the right of the universe to make sense. The enemy believes that existence should follow perfect mathematical order, that chaos and irrationality are flaws to be corrected. They're about to learn why the universe gave some of its children the gift of beautiful, magnificent madness." The battle began not with weapons fire, but with something far more devastating: coordinated insanity. Human pilots performed maneuvers that violated every principle of physics while alien reality shapers bent spacetime to make those maneuvers actually work. Ships flew backward through time to attack enemies before the battle started, then looped forward to attack the same targets after they had already been destroyed. Fighter squadrons split into quantum superpositions, existing in multiple locations simultaneously, until enemy fire forced them to collapse into single realities. The effect on the Devourers was immediate and profound. Entities designed to adapt to any logical strategy found themselves facing tactics that weren't just illogical, but actively hostile to the concept of logic itself. Their perfect computational matrices began generating error cascades as they tried to predict human actions, based on pure emotion and alien responses guided by million-year-old intuition. Captain Beth Torres led the primary assault, her modified Corvette Chaos Theory equipped with weapons that existed in 17 dimensions and fired ammunition made of crystallized probability. "Target the breach stabilizers," she called out to her mixed human-alien crew. "If we can destabilize their portal, maybe we can trap that thing halfway between dimensions." Her ship dove through formations of devourer entities that tried to calculate her trajectory, only to find that she was making navigation decisions based on childhood memories of flying paper airplanes and the way her grandmother's perfume smelled on Sunday mornings. The Devourer's adaptive algorithm shattered against the pure emotional chaos of human decision-making, but the enemy was learning even from chaos. New forms of Devourers began emerging from the breach, entities specifically designed to counter irrationality by embracing it. They moved in patterns that mimicked human unpredictability while maintaining their perfect logical cores. The battle shifted as both sides engaged in a deadly dance of adaptation and counter-adaptation. Dr. Amy Fisher, working frantically at her station aboard the Defiance, made a crucial discovery. "Admiral, I'm detecting resonance patterns in the dimensional breach. The entity trying to come through isn't just alien to our reality. It's actively poisonous to the concept of existence itself. If it fully manifests, it won't just destroy our universe. It will retroactively prevent it from ever having existed." The revelation sent shockwaves through the combined fleet. They weren't just fighting for their lives, but for the fundamental right of reality to be real. The cosmic entity was trying to replace existence with something so alien that the very concept of existence would become meaningless. Carter watched as sections of his fleet began to buckle under the assault. Despite their chaotic tactics, the Devourers were adapting faster than the Alliance could innovate. Ships disappeared not in explosions but in cascading probability failures that erased them from multiple timelines simultaneously. Entire squadrons found themselves locked in temporal loops where they died repeatedly, while somehow continuing to fight. "We're losing coherence," reported Fleet Commander Thicksall, his electromagnetic form flickering with distress. "The Devourers have developed meta-algorithms that can predict even our most irrational strategies. They're learning to be chaotic, while remaining logical." That's when Torres made the decision that would echo through galactic history. Instead of following the battle plan, instead of coordinating with the fleet, instead of doing anything that made tactical sense, she pointed her ship directly at the dimensional breach and engaged maximum thrust. "Torres, what are you doing?" Carter demanded over the communications channel. "That's suicide." "No, sir," she replied, her voice calm with the certainty of someone who had found their purpose. "That's humanity." Her ship, enhanced with quantum, drives that existed in multiple realities and powered by the collective refusal of her crew to accept defeat, became something unprecedented. A vessel that was simultaneously destroyed and victorious, dead and alive, logical and chaotic. The chaos theory punched through the Devourer defenses not by overwhelming them, but by becoming a paradox so perfect that their adaptive systems couldn't process it. As Torres's ship approached the breach, something extraordinary happened. The cosmic entity trying to emerge began to withdraw. For the first time in its existence across multiple dimensions, it had encountered something it couldn't understand. Beings willing to sacrifice themselves not for logical reasons, but out of pure emotional commitment to protecting others. The moment of contact between Torres's ship and the dimensional breach created a feedback loop that propagated through the entire Devourer network. Every entity suddenly found itself trying to calculate the tactical value of self-sacrifice, the strategic advantage of choosing death over victory, the mathematical formula for love being stronger than survival instinct. Their quantum minds, built on foundations of pure logic, couldn't process the concept. The contradiction spread like a virus through their collective consciousness, creating recursive loops that tore apart their adaptive algorithms. One by one, the Devourers began to shut down as their perfect logical systems collapsed under the weight of trying to understand an irrational universe. The cosmic entity, finding its servants disabled and its anchor to reality severed, retreated back into the spaces between dimensions. The breach began to collapse, taking with it the millions of Devourer constructs and their impossible geometries. Space-time started to heal, gravity remembered which direction it was supposed to point, and the stars resumed burning in colors that belonged to the normal spectrum. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors and the joint fleet began the long journey home, Carter found himself in the strange position of having won a war he never truly understood. The Devourers were gone, the cosmic threat neutralized, but the cost had been enormous. Thousands of ships lost, entire species reduced to scattered survivors, and heroes like Torres who had paid the ultimate price for victory. But as reports came in from across the galaxy, Carter began to understand what they had really accomplished. The alliance forged in desperation had created something new. A civilization that combined alien wisdom with human chaos, logical precision with emotional, truth-ancient knowledge with innovative madness. Humanity found itself reluctantly elevated to leadership positions throughout the hegemony, not because of their technology or military might, but because they had proven that sometimes the most rational response to an irrational universe was to embrace the chaos and find strength in the contradictions. The galaxy began to heal, scarred but stronger, united by the understanding that existence itself was worth fighting for, even when the odds were impossible and the enemy was beyond comprehension. And in the deepest reaches of space, new monitoring stations kept watch for signals from other galaxies, knowing that humanity's greatest adventure had only just begun.